Hey friend, this is Fede Vargas from My Most Authentic Life, where we explore big life changes in unconventional paths. Today on the show, Mark Clayton. But first, a bit of Fede philosophy. We talk a lot about new beginnings, but not enough about what it takes to leave something behind. Letting go of the thing you loved, the thing that gave you purpose, identity, comfort. That's the part no one prepares you for. Walking away from what was often comes long before we're ready for what's next. We tend to think of change as a choice, but sometimes it chooses us. And in those moments, the real work begins, not just in finding a new path, but in becoming someone new. Today's guest, Mark Clayton, knows that journey well. He stepped away from the game he loved, football, and into something entirely different. He faced the silence, the space, the loss. And in that space, something else emerged. He created, he built, he found a new way to express who he was becoming. He's the founder of Live Audio, a headphone brand rooted in experience, feeling, and connection. Mark reminds us that transformation isn't just about reinvention. Sometimes it's about honoring who you were while making room for who you're meant to be. This is Mark Clayton on My Most Authentic Life. Mark, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here, man.
And what I love about your story is this shift in identity. For years, football is your identity, first round draft pick, standout wide receiver. It was all about the game plan. But really, then your life becomes about life's game plan.
Yeah.
So take us back to the moment it all changed. What was going through your mind?
At that time, we were playing at Detroit, was really having the best season of my career with St. Louis and was feeling like a kid again, like I was in college again. Fast forward to game 5, we were playing at Detroit. It was early on in the game and was going for the ball and just kind of playing it. And it didn't really feel like anything painful. When the doc came over, I told him, it just felt like his heel just kicked my knee.
Ooh.
But man, it was a complete rupture of my patella tendon. He lifted my leg up and from my knee down, it just kind of hung there.
Oh, my goodness.
And Coach Spagnola came over and Reggie told him what was going on. And he was like, Mark, couldn't you have done anything else for attention? So I was like, oh, I wish, trust.
Oh, boy.
But no, I laughed in the moment. And that was kind of how that moment was because it wasn't so painful. And I've already had multiple knee surgeries prior to that moment. So yeah, as that kind of transition and rehab process went on and on and on, I was like, man, this is longer than the others. This is different.
Mm-hmm.
Which started to have a little bit of doubt creep in and fear creep in, but was able to get to a place where I felt, pretty good. The team brought me back for essentially a prove-it season. So if you can imagine, this injury happened in week 5 of the football season, and we're halfway into the very next season was the first time that I got to play again. And this third game I played, middle of the game or so, and ball goes flying, and I'm looking at the ball there. It's a beautiful spiral. And as it came in, I'm positioning myself to get up under this punt to catch it, but my knee is sliding. And so I was like, man, I don't want to do any more damage than what has already been done. And so all I did was fair catch, caught the ball. And when I got back to the sideline, I told my coach that was going to be it. I'm not going to be able to go anymore. And essentially, that was it. That was my last play in the NFL. And again, was thinking, yeah, we'll put some work in and I'll sign back with another team. And when that didn't happen, that was the solidifying factor. Like you're done with the NFL. It's time to move on to something else.
So what's interesting about this journey for you is that the mindset shift, or if we can even call it a grieving process, a grieving shift, was a lengthy one, right? So you had time to kind of process that things were changing. What was that period leading up to that final play?
It's interesting you got a grieving process. I like that. And there was such a long kind of process out that was filled with hope and optimism in there. And it was almost like those two were mixing and making the
Mm.
juice less sour, if you will. But yeah, I think that grieving process, I was allowed to kind of have that in the midst of it because it was like a slow process out, really. And I will say, once it was official, now at this point I'm living in Miami, there was kind of this blank space that was happening of it being real, and then there's really nothing for me to do or nothing that I had planned to do. I was single at the time. One of my pastor friends that I had come pretty fond of while I was in St. Louis for that moment had referred me to one of his buddies that was there in Miami. And between that and counseling was a big part of helping me kind of talk through, think through, process out what was and finding stability with where I was at.
That really sets the scene and paints a really vivid imagery, painful imagery of what you went through and what leads to the end of your career. But let's tell the listeners a little bit about Mark Clayton before that, because that injury leads to a significant life pivot, but really you've been pivoting your entire life.
Yeah.
Take us back to the Texas chapter.
Yeah, man. I guess the first major pivot, well, there was a couple major pivots. One early on, my dad leaving my life in a big capacity early. And then the second one would be my mom moving us from Oklahoma to Texas when I was in the fifth grade. And so fifth grade, I was in Oklahoma. And when they first moved to Texas, my mom and brother and sister, I didn't go initially with them. I stayed. She let me stay because I really wanted to stay with my friends. And so she let me. And I stayed with my uncle for pretty much a semester before she made me move down there. I just couldn't stop getting in trouble. And it was, I guess, the winter break when I moved to Texas with my mom and brother and sister. That was the super crazy shift, like going from comfort, people relationships you have and all that, to people you don't know. Everybody new, everything's new, and you don't have the confidence, I guess, in everything that's around you that you had when you were in Oklahoma. And so, yeah, that was a major shift.
Well, what's interesting there is that you brought up your dad as the first life pivot or the first big impactful change in your life. And then your mom deciding to move to Texas. How do these big life changes impact the rest of your journey going forward?
I think hindsight, it kind of made me harder, where it was like you get into this space and you learn how to survive and just keep it moving. Our household wasn't, there was a lot of emotion, more so from my mom. A part of me getting to the level that I got to was a lot of the ability to be in my own lane and just be to myself, in addition to if coach had something for me to do or he suggested, hey, maybe you should do extra or maybe go spend time in this playbook or whatever it was. That was pretty easy to do on my own because I was already like a loner, if you will. And so it had that impact, but it played into the ability to kind of separate myself from people and excel at the things that I wanted to excel at, that I liked or loved. And then, my friend group, it kind of built me in a way where I was the friend that was just there with the guys hanging, and I didn't talk a lot. I wasn't a big talker or anything like that, but I was a supporter. I had your back. Uh,
Yeah.
and that played out too as we went on to the next level and just being a solid teammate. Like I don't, I don't need nothing for myself. I feel like I was always pretty good, but I would help wherever I could help. And then I could go and download or implement whatever it was that coach needed or at all the high school, college, and pro, and then go back and share with whoever was on that squad or whoever was in the room with me. Built me into a guy that's always, wanting to help out. I could figure shit out and then help out.
Awesome. So when do you start playing football and when do you realize that, wow, this could actually be my future?
I was 5 years old actually. So my parents, they just put me in football and I liked it. Just was naturally good at it. I was a defensive guy. I remember I was a linebacker and a running back. But in junior high, kind of making that transition from Oklahoma to Texas, I was playing football. Getting to Texas, I played, but for whatever reason, I started loving basketball. And so my goal was so I wanted to do anything basketball, all the camps, anytime after school, before school, pick up basketball. And I just would play basketball all the time. Football was just something that we did it when it was football season, but apart from that, that was it. I also became a quarterback when I got to Texas. So I was like a option quarterback, and we threw it every now and then. I was a quarterback, which it was cool, but it wasn't basketball. It
Mhm.
wasn't being a point guard, handling the rock and crossing people over and doing MJ and all that stuff. And so football, I didn't see myself playing football at a high level, not in college, not even certainly not in the NFL. But basketball, I did. I thought that I could do some damage on the basketball court and go and play like pro.
Cool. Well, I'd love to talk about the wake up call moment. Every journey has that wake up call, a moment that flips the script. And for you, it was a teammate calling you out, saying, "Hey, you could do better." Do you remember that conversation and what feelings come up when you recall that?
I mean, I definitely remember it. It was like after a summer kind of 7 on 7. Well, more like us just throwing the ball, getting some extra work in. And on this day, it was just another day, and which was kind of how I went about everything. It was just another day, and we're just here, and we're just catching balls, just doing what we do, and kind of that approach to things, real nonchalant. I remember it got in my, he was going off just as we were just floating through this workout, and at Oklahoma, our deal was, and this is after we had won the national championship, so the expectations are high. And it's good to have guys on the team or leaders around that can feel an atmosphere and know this is bullshit. We're not taking this shit serious. We're gonna get our ass beat if we don't. And in that moment was that. And so that was happening. And that was like, you're the one. We are following you. Like you are coach made you leader for a reason. And it was like, bro, you gotta stop bullshitting. You gotta come on now. Straight up. Hey, man, we were trying to win the championship, and we can't be out here just fucking around, basically.
Wow. Not long after, you're a first round draft pick. And so begins the chapter of your life, the NFL dream, and the reality that came with that. Tell us about that chapter of your life.
It was very fast, I'll tell you that. It was poof, 7 years, but incredible. I think the beautiful part of it is I didn't think or have in my mind that I would ever play in the NFL, but getting there was just, I was so grateful and just so appreciative of the opportunity and wanted to maximize that opportunity.
The NFL life looks like the dream, the big plays, the money, the spotlight. And you've hinted at it through what you were saying there earlier. But what's something about life in the league that people don't see?
The family life, relationship life can be ugly, extremely ugly. And today, in my mind, like life is relationships, period. And at that level, just greed, hunger is real, and your family can be in the mix too. And trusting people, especially as a young man, you have to, varying degrees, you have to, because there's so much that you don't know. Like some guys are fortunate to have good circles around them to help navigate that. A lot of guys are not, and you. can easily get took, which so many guys get took on a regular basis to this day, still get took by family members. I mean, there was a story not too long ago about Baker Mayfield's family member taking him for millions. Like, it's family.
Oh,
It's
wow.
crazy. And then, of course, people from the outside, the shiny suit guys,
Mm.
they talk good game and all that, and man, they'll take you faster than anybody. But there's suits that are trustable. There's guys that are true to taking care of guys and players. But uh, you live and you learn, and it's crazy that it still happens to this day. But it's also not, because it's just underneath it all. You don't know, but you know that people are greedy, and if they can get something, they will, and they'll be patient and play it slow and show you what earn your trust while all along they're playing the game.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good guys, good women, good people out there that players are in relationship with, that help them with their money, help them with their contract type stuff outside of it, help them with their business development outside of ball, help them with just livelihood. It's there, but there obviously is that other piece where some guys are getting took now and will be getting took in the future.
Wow. So every career, every life has highs and lows. How do you keep moving forward when the path may not be clear or when you've had setbacks like these?
Faith. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I believe by faith that my future is secure, whatever that may be. I don't know what it is, but along the way, in all the aspects of it, hindsight is, man, that was a big part of, regardless of whatever was going on. But that gave me the ability to kind of just stand in confidence in whatever it was,
Mm.
um, my faith.
So the game ends and you're probably asking yourself, what comes next? What was the hardest part of figuring out what you were going to do beyond football?
I had the hardest part was more leaving behind how much I loved ball, loved everything that came with football, and then accepting whatever it was that was coming in the future, or accepting who I was growing into or transforming into in the future. But leaving that, I love the comfort of that. I love the adrenaline that comes from that. I love the camaraderie that comes from that, the praise that came from that. Just so many different aspects of what football allowed, I guess, that were being and had to be left behind or buried in a sense.
Yeah, I love how you use the imagery there of buried, right? But it's this burying while alive as you transform into something else.
Yeah.
But then you find a way to make your next pivot, right? A lot of athletes put their name on a business, but you built one from scratch. Tell us about the inspiration for Live Headphones.
Man, so when I was in that rehab process from the patella tendon rupture, headphones were a big part of the music. Has a way of taking to a place and zoning in. And, I had an experience with headphones all the way back to the earbuds that Apple had with the iPod when they came out. But man, like, I love the over-ear headphones and they sounded really good. But at that time, there was not an over-ear headphone that was secure, that would just stay put on my head and would allow me to run and move. And if I'm trying to make a move, wiggle my head and just stay there with me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I wonder if I can make a over-ear headphone that would just stick with me. And that's where I started sketching a headband that was different. I had broke 2 headphones from them flying forward because I was stopping and they kept going. So I was like, man, if I design a headband that set back a little bit and then it has some tension to it, feel like that'd be like the perfect little trifecta. 2 spots on your ears and the one behind the crown of your head, that headphone not going nowhere. And so that was my original concept that I went and sketched out.
What restarts it?
I had a buddy of mine basically say, "Hey, whatever happened to, your headphone deal?" It's like, go through the story. It just costs a lot. I was going through that was like a design kind of overhaul because I did make those 1,000 units. We did have people test and wear them, work out in them, train in them,
Hmm.
kind of have experience with them. And so I got a lot of feedback from that, which was great. Why don't you, why don't you just go, raise money? Like, you don't have to use your money, use other people's money. I was like, man, one of the guys that I got to speak to along the way, his name was Win Kramer. He's the CEO of JLab. And he applauded the pursuit of creating a headphone that was unique. I thought, man, that would be kind of cool if I could partner with somebody who was actually in the space. And so at that point, it was like, man, if I could show Win another concept and they like it, then I think I'll be in a much better position to build and bring something to market. And so I did, sketched out and was able to go with the industrial designer and create a new model, a new concept of what had already been. And then basically just took a picture rendered to Win and asked him what he thought and thought it was awesome. And that was the spark that was like, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna do it with the right people.
Hmm.
I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna test everything. It's just with everything that I've learned, I'm going to incorporate that into what comes out of this new model.
I love that. The live revival, the Renaissance.
Literally.
Yeah. So, through all of those struggles, more ups and downs in your entrepreneurial world, like in football, in terms of Live, the brand now, is there one experience or one moment where you said to yourself, you know what, this is worth it. This is why I'm doing this?
We had an event to kind of show the new model and the direction that we're taking the brand in and what we're standing for in terms of the experience that we wanted to provide. And at that event was people from, 60s to 20s, guys, girls, just all like awesome variety. And on the first model that I had, the knee jerk reaction was it wasn't that it was just awesome. You can tell there are people that I know, my family, like people that are close to me, they're gonna, oh man, that's great. But just in public, the knee jerk reaction for the original model was kind of like, oh, I having to explain what it did and why it was valuable. The knee jerk reaction to this new model was, wow, that looks really neat. Like we've definitely turned the corner, and we're gonna have a group of people that will at least, at the bare minimum, get the headphone to try it because it looks good. Like,
Amazing. I love that. What's the vision? What's next?
so Live really is audio company, but our deal is helping people live a lifestyle that is very versatile. So the idea was creating a headphone that would keep up with you no matter what you did, whether you was in the gym or like on our packaging, it says, whether you're training or sitting on a train, our headphone can live there. And so as we have our hero product, every other product that will come down the line will have an aspect to the versatility of life. And so the goal was to create products that could flow and be versatile and move along with people in their life, no matter where they were at.
That's incredible. Yeah. A headphone that can live with you. I love that. If there's something that you would love the audience to take away in terms of your brand building experience, what would it be?
It would be something that I learned just playing football. It's about the community. Like everybody has value and bring value to the table. But building community around the group is critical. And then valuing their thoughts, their ideas, their concepts around whatever that thing is critical as well. Because I think I felt most valuable when a coach would take in consideration what I saw when I was on the field. Man, what'd you see? Oh man, I'm a part of this and I'm providing value to this team and we're trying to win together. And so in entrepreneurship, I think it flows the same. Whereas if bring you on the team, it's because I absolutely see value in you, and I'm hoping and expecting you to provide value into the company and what we're trying to accomplish.
Amazing. So well put. Well, Mark, a lot of great insights about your life journey from the highs and lows of football to building this amazing brand. You've hit on faith, humility. There's been themes of learning to let go. I love to give you some space to share anything that's on your mind based on what we've discussed or any key takeaways that you'd love the audience to take with them.
I sit here at 42 years old, about to be 43, and I look back and all the experiences that I've ever had, good and bad, has really shaped me into the person I am today. And, without a shadow of a doubt on my end, that it's been all of God's grace towards me that has allowed me to flow in and out of these different environments and circumstances and love and mess up and come back and just be and continue to live a life that incorporates my family, my kids, and showing them that no matter what's happening, good or bad, they can keep going. And ultimately, you're not alone. The Creator has created us intentionally and has placed us intentionally where we are. And some situations are not awesome, but even in those spaces, there's still hope. If anybody takes anything away from this, is man, stay hopeful and stay moving.
That's super powerful. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Sometimes hope shows up in the darkness. That's when you need it most.
1000%.
So now let's get into our rapid fire round. We always close off the show with the same three questions. Here's the first. What's the biggest gift you've discovered about yourself?
How patient I've been with life and things and just patience.
Beautiful. What's the hardest truth you've discovered about yourself?
How selfish I've been and am still. My selfishness, just can't believe it.
We all have a bit of that. And lastly, what does authenticity mean to you?
Being able to be honest about the not so good things about yourself. And it's easy to talk about what's great, but in those spaces, there are opportunities to be relatable. That is authentic. Like I'm being me, good and bad, and I'll apologize for certain things, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to beat myself up for my shortcomings.
I love that answer. Well, Mark, this has been incredible. Your story's full of pivots, wake up calls, finding purpose, faith, building a brand. Thank you so much for sharing your story today.
I appreciate you, man. This has been awesome.
That's today's personal journey. You can follow me around the web at My Most Authentic Life and connect with me at mymostauthenticlife.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, make the most of every moment and keep living time on.